Imagine waking up and realizing you lost 3 hours of your life. No memory, no explanation, just a gap in time that shouldn't exist. Now imagine an entire town experiencing this at the same moment. This is what happened in Ojai, California, a small town of 7,000 people, and for 3 hours, every single person fell asleep at exactly the same time. This is the story of the sleeping town incident and the one person who stayed awake. It started on an ordinary Tuesday morning in spring. The town was going about its business. People were at work, kids were at school, cars were on the road. Everything normal. Then, at exactly 11:47 a.m., something happened. A driver later reported that she felt suddenly drowsy while approaching a red light. She remembered her eyes getting heavy. The next thing she knew, she was waking up in her car 3 hours later. The engine was still running. Her foot was still on the brake. A teacher described feeling an overwhelming need to close his eyes during a math lesson. When he opened them again, his students were all slumped over their desks. 3 hours had passed. The clock showed 2:47 p.m. A construction worker was operating heavy machinery. He felt the exhaustion hit him like a wave. His coworker found him 3 hours later, slumped in the operator's seat. The machine had shut itself off automatically. All across town, the same thing. A grocery store with customers and employees collapsed in the aisles. A hospital with doctors and nurses asleep at their stations. Even the patients in critical care fell unconscious. At the police station, every officer was found sleeping at their desks. Dispatch received no calls during those 3 hours because there was no one awake to make them. The strangest part? Not a single accident occurred. Cars on the road simply rolled to a stop. No one fell and hurt themselves. It was as if everyone had been gently placed into sleep, frozen in whatever position they were in. When people started waking up, the confusion was immediate. Most didn't realize anything was wrong at first. They felt disoriented, like waking from a deep sleep they didn't remember starting. They checked their phones and saw the time. 3 hours had vanished. Parents rushed to schools to find their children waking up confused. Husbands called wives asking if they felt strange. The entire town was calling each other, asking the same questions. Did you fall asleep too? What time is it for you? Do you remember anything? Nobody remembered anything. That 3-hour window was completely blank for every person in Ojai. No dreams, no sensations, just nothing. The panic set in quickly. Emergency services were overwhelmed with calls. People were convinced they'd been drugged or poisoned. Some thought it was a gas leak. Others suspected terrorism. The FBI arrived within hours. CDC teams were dispatched. Environmental agencies tested the air and water. Toxicology reports were run on dozens of volunteers. Every possible explanation was investigated. Gas leak? No unusual readings detected anywhere in the town. Chemical attack? No foreign substances found in anyone's system. Mass hysteria? Impossible for that to cause simultaneous unconsciousness. Contaminated food or water? The victims had eaten and drunk different things. The investigators were baffled. There was no scientific explanation for how 7,000 people could fall asleep at the exact same moment and wake up exactly 3 hours later. But the most disturbing discovery came when they checked the security systems. Every camera in town had shut off at 11:47 a.m. Traffic cameras, store security, home surveillance, ATM cameras, doorbell cameras, everything. And they all turned back on at exactly 2:47 p.m. 3 hours of footage simply didn't exist. The power grids showed no interruption. The cameras hadn't lost power, they had just stopped recording. Or, more accurately, something had made them stop recording. One security expert examined the footage and found something unusual. The cameras didn't shut off randomly. They shut off in a sequence, starting from the north side of town and sweeping south in a wave pattern. as if something was moving through the town, turning off cameras as it went. The same pattern appeared in the timeline of when people fell asleep. Witnesses who later compared notes realized that people in the north part of town fell asleep seconds before those in the south. Not by much, maybe 10 or 15 seconds total, but the pattern was there. Something had moved through Ojai from north to south in less than a minute, putting everyone to sleep. Now here's where it gets truly terrifying. There was one person who didn't fall asleep, a woman named Sarah Mitchell. She was a psychiatric patient at a private care facility on the outskirts of town. When the FBI interviewed the staff at the facility, they found everyone had fallen asleep like the rest of town, except Sarah. She had been found in her room, awake, sitting perfectly still in a corner, staring at the wall. When staff members woke up, Sarah was rocking back and forth, repeating the same phrase over and over. They counted us. They counted us. They counted us. The FBI brought in specialists to interview her. Sarah was normally lucid, being treated for anxiety and depression, but after that day, she couldn't stop saying those 4 words. They counted us. One investigator asked her what she meant. Sarah's response was chilling. They came through. They looked at everyone. They counted us. I saw them. When pressed to describe what she saw, Sarah became agitated. She said she saw figures moving through the town. She couldn't describe them properly because every time she tried to focus on them, her mind couldn't process what she was seeing. Not people, she said. Not people, but they walked like people. They went house to house, building to building, looking at everyone sleeping, counting. She claimed they had devices that scanned each person. She said she watched them through her window as they moved through the facility, entering each room, standing over each sleeping patient and staff member. When they entered her room, she said she tried to pretend she was asleep, but they knew. They stood over her for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. She said they didn't touch her, just observed her. Then they left. The investigators asked why she thought they didn't put her to sleep like everyone else. Sarah's answer made everyone in the room uncomfortable. Because I'm already broken. They only wanted to count the normal ones. The official investigation concluded with no definitive answers. The CDC reported no environmental causes. The FBI found no evidence of criminal activity. The case was filed as an unexplained medical phenomenon, possibly a rare form of mass psychogenic illness, though that explanation didn't fit the facts. The town tried to return to normal, but things changed. People reported feeling watched. Security camera sales in Ojai tripled in the following months. Many families moved away, unable to shake the feeling that whatever happened could happen again. Sarah Mitchell remained institutionalized. Her condition worsened. She developed severe paranoia, convinced that they were coming back. She kept asking staff to count the patients to make sure everyone was accounted for. 6 months after the incident, Sarah was found dead in her room. The official cause was listed as heart failure, but she was only 32 years old with no prior heart conditions. On her wall, written in small letters with a crayon she'd hidden, was a message: "They came back. Final count complete." 2 years later, a researcher looking into the incident discovered something in the archived security footage. Remember how all cameras shut off during those 3 hours? They shut off, but the devices themselves kept running. And some cameras had internal memory that kept trying to record even when the main system was disabled. This researcher found corrupted fragments of data from one traffic camera. When cleaned up and enhanced, the footage showed something moving down Main Street during those missing 3 hours. The image was distorted, pixelated, barely recognizable, but you could make out shapes. Tall, elongated figures moving in perfect formation, and in the reflection of a store window, just for a single frame, you could see one of these figures clearly. It was humanoid, but wrong. The proportions were off. The movement was too smooth, too precise, and in its hand was a device with a screen showing numbers. A count. The researcher submitted this finding to the FBI. 3 days later, she was contacted and told the footage had been classified for national security reasons. The files were seized. She was asked to sign an NDA and never speak about what she found. She later said in an anonymous interview that before they took the footage, she looked at that final frame one more time. The device in the figure's hand was clearly visible. The screen showed a number: 7,001. But the official population of Ojai at that time was 7,000. Every person had been accounted for in the initial investigation. So who was number 7,001? Some people think it was Sarah, the woman who stayed awake. They think she was counted separately because she witnessed what happened. But others think something different. They think maybe one of those figures stayed behind. Maybe one of them is still in Ojai, living among the population, waiting for the next count. The town has never experienced another sleeping incident. Life goes on, but the people who were there that day never forgot those 3 missing hours, and they wonder what was so important that an entire town needed to be put to sleep while something moved among them. Counting. The question isn't just what counted the people of Ojai. The question is why. What do you do with a count? You track it. You compare it to a previous count. You check if the numbers have changed. Which means whatever came to Ojai that day might have been there before. And the truly terrifying thought is that they might come back to count again. Because that's what you do when you're keeping track of something. You count it. You record it. You monitor it. And when the numbers are complete, you decide what to do with them. The town of Ojai is still there. People still live their lives. But some residents have a habit now. Every day at 11:47 a.m., they pause whatever they're doing. They check the time. They look around, making sure they're still awake, making sure they're still here, still uncounted.